let me ask you a little bit about yourself. You're not teaching anymore, is that right?
I resigned my position from the school system to be placed on the school board.
Did you have to do that?
By law, you have to.
You do?
You cannot be an educator in the county that you were sitting on
No.
the school board.
Was it worth the trade-off?
Monetary wise?
Well,
No.
anyway.
Actually, as a teacher, the pay is much better than school board member.
Well, I'm sure of that, but I mean, personally, was that a difficult decision for you to make?
Resigning education to be on the school board? No, that was my long-term goal. It just actually was moved up 2 years with Pat Tillman and then the county.
So you were always planning to
My
run a
plan was
school.
always to be running for the school board in 2024.
So I know you're not making a fortune on the school board. What are you doing these days?
Campaign.
So you don't have a job?
No, actually, my job is the school.
Well, but I mean, do you have another gig out there, so to speak?
Well, I have sold french fries at the Coliseum.
You do what now?
I have sold french fries at the Coliseum. I have a friend of ours that does a concession stand
Okay.
out there. I go with helping maybe once in a while for the fun of it.
Can we say that you're a retired school teacher?
Not,
Okay.
and the reason I say that, if I was retired, I would be collecting a paycheck. But as it is, I am just a resigning school teacher.
So would it be accurate then just to call you a former school teacher?
Yes.
Okay, I just wanted to get the terminology down, wherever you wanted to use it.
Well, a lot of people always say that I'm retired, but the reality is if I was retired, I'd be collecting that paycheck as a retirement, and I am not collecting a paycheck.
Don't you have a retirement plan as a teacher?
Well, for me to draw my retirement, I would lose money until I'm 60. And so, I mean.
I got you. You're not old enough to collect those benefits.
I can't, but I do have a reduced rate.
Gotcha.
So the goal is keep being wings until I'm 60, and I'll need that.
Makes sense. I've done that myself. So how are today, how are your relations with the other members of the school board?
Well, as far as doing school board business and the functions of the school board, it's actually been fairly smooth in that respect. At some of the board meetings, I brought up some concerns. I haven't had the votes to address what I was concerned with, but we have had discussions. And having discussions is pretty important.
What is it that concerns you that you brought up to the board?
Well, one concern was a contract where we paid an architect, $1.14 million because the contract on Claxton Elementary, the GMP ended up being higher than what was expected at the beginning, and therefore we paid the architect an increased fee. That's not business, that's not big business right there. If I was an architect, what would be my motivation or desire to build something that's gonna stay under GMP? It also didn't provide a clear view for the taxpayers that funded that bond of how money is going to be spent. Most of our GMPs have increased or will increase.
You keep talking about terminology that I would imagine
Oh,
most of my viewers
GMP,
have no idea.
guaranteed maximum price.
So is it fair to say, though, you have a disagreement with the board on financial business dealing with the schools?
On some of the financials, yes. And the reality is, it was in the contract, so we owed it to them, but I wanted them to come in and explain
Okay.
why we were hired. Because the public really needs to know, why is the cost of our school so high? That first $300 million that we spent, it's going to be about $540, $570 million to cover what we were going to do with the $300 million. And that's all coming out of the bond money, the $1.7 billion.
So you're concerned how that bond money is being spent?
Yes.
Okay. And what would you do differently? How would you fix the problem that you see?
Part of it was guaranteed to happen just because of the business that government does. I'm an automotive instructor, so my analogy always is, if you went to a mechanic and said, what's it going to cost to replace my engine in the car? And they gave you a price. Well, if you came back 5 years later and said, I have the money now, you're not going to get it for the same price. And that's business, but unfortunately, when it comes to government business, that's how we run. We get estimates, we price what it's going to be, then we go out, we sell the bonds, we get the money, and then we come back 5 years later to do what we were proposing.
So I guess I would I asked, what's your beef? I mean, that sounds like normal business to me.
Well, not if you look at the 2019 plan. We will only probably get 21, right now we're down to 21, 23 projects, basically out of the plan. We also have 500 million allotted for the deferred maintenance. In the original plan, we had 800 million. Well, for schools and construction have doubled or over doubled in price.
Sure.
If we're only doing 500 million now for deferred maintenance, when the original estimate was 800 million, we're only getting probably half or less than half than what we were planning on doing.
So what's the solution in your mind?
Well, part of it's gonna be our state's gonna have to help it with our county commissioners will have to direct funds. Cause the building of our schools is under county commissioners. It is under the county, the state doesn't fund that. Now, there are some programs in the past, and one of the things that really hits us on the building of the schools is the interest on those funds. And as it is right now, we're actually, in the county government, they have put money aside to save, to pay for the interest when it's too high or higher than the money coming in. Reality is, if we could get the government to loan us, or the state, or the federal government, to come up with programs where they can loan us the money, interest free, that would be a great plus.
Sounds like a great deal. It sounds like a long stretch.
But it shouldn't be. The reality is, we need schools.
You believe though that the state and the county should be putting more money into the Guilford County schools?
Yes.
Okay. I think that's something that probably everyone in the school board would agree on.
In that respect, we can, particularly in teacher pay. Teacher pay, classified staff pay, we're going to be voting tonight on 2 HVAC companies doing business. And the reality is, the reason we're having to do those projects or vote within the contracts is we don't pay employees enough to work for us.
You've lost me again.
Heating, ventilation, air conditioning.
I got that. How's that mix in with teacher pay or?
Okay, we're paying the HVAC people $16.07 an hour.
Okay.
Beginning technician.
All right.
Industry pays $22 to $25 an hour for a helper.
Mm-hmm.
We have 13 open positions right now. Teacher pay, we have always had a focus, and that matter Democrat or Republican, the focus has always been on the entry level teachers. Since I started teaching, entry level teacher pay is almost double, actually it's more than double. And at this time, the top level pay is only got up about $13,000. So the reality is teachers coming in really do not have much of a ladder to climb. And we're losing teachers at that. We're losing teachers to other states. In Guilford County, we're losing to surrounding counties because they can provide a supplement.
Guilford County has a supplement, doesn't it?
Yes, we do. But the state doesn't provide ours. We are one of the 3 counties, Wake, Mecklenburg, and Guilford, those do not have their supplement provided by the state. Even the formula that they use, they have determined we don't need it.
Mm-hmm.
So we should be able to fund it ourselves.
So, because I don't want to get lost in the
Yes.
weeds here, the viewers of this story are going to want to more generic, get an idea of what it is you want and what you think is needed in this race and how you differentiate yourself from the 2 opponents that you face. I don't know if we can get there talking about $16 an hour for a helper, you know what I mean? So tell me what you think is significant about the differences of what you think should be done versus perhaps those that you're running against.
Well, I'll turn it into this.
Sure.
What I do, I wake up in the morning and I start doing my job at the school. I have no outside conflicts. I'm not working as an educator in another county. I'm not working as a businessman doing anything else other than I wake up and work on problems with the school. Whether it's busing, whether it's with students, whether it's with issues at the schools. Now, the superintendent is basically my only employee, is the superintendent.
Mm-hmm.
But school board representative, I am also the communicator for people within the public and the school system. As an educator, I worked in the school system for 26 years. And most of the time, when people call up and talk to me, I can tell them, this is where you need to go. This is who you need to talk to. This is how you need to address this. So I like to say I am the guidance counselor for the public education system.
So you say you have time in your hands to do the work that's needed. Is that fair?
24/7.
How is that different though than the people you're running against? How are you advocating or helping the school system that you think would be better for the folks who live District 3?
That's great.
How is it that you're offering anything different than the two people you're running against?
Well, primarily I've been representing District 3 for a number of years, even before I was on the school. I was the Republican district chair, so I was involved in politics. And District 3 is made up of Stokesdale, Summerfield, Oak Ridge, and part of Greensboro. But primarily it is in the Northwest Territory. And within that territory, I've been actively involved in those communities for years. I bought my house on the premise of my kids walking to school. That was the sole purpose of me buying my house in the location was so my kids could walk to school.
Let me ask you a couple other questions. How about this quarter-cent sales tax for education? Where do you stand on that?
Well, I stand that we should pass it. The wording is it will be used for teacher pay, that's not pay, staff pay.
Right.
But there's two cuts to that. One is Stokesdale's not provided their sales tax share from Guilford County, so it's hard to go out to Stokesdale and say, support a sales tax, when the county does not provide their share of sales tax to the township of Stokesdale. The second is, we have that wording in where that money is gonna go and what it's gonna be used for. If it is passed and an election or two down the road, our commissioners change, the wording can be changed. There's nothing written in stone that that's gonna be there.
Okay.
But I do love the fact that sales taxes, I'm a property owner. In Guilford County, we have forced all the payment of everything basically on the property owners. And that's truly not fair. Our sales tax, actually all the counties around us have already incorporated that 40-cent sales tax. And if you also notice, they're paying a higher teacher supplement than Guilford County.
So again, though, you are on board with your opponents. They too agree with the quarter-cent sales tax. I am looking for ways that separate you. For the voter who doesn't have a ton of time, trying to figure out who am I going to vote for in this election, I'm looking for differences. If you're all on the same page, it's hard to pick and choose. Can you think of something that separates you?
I have a ton of time to do the job for the school.
Okay.
That is basically, it is my job. And there are no other conflicts.
Do you believe school boards should have the power or the authority to ban books in school?
They do. They do. They should. And the reality is, it's not a matter of banning books. I don't know of any books that have been banned. It mainly has been age-appropriate material.
There haven't been books that have been banned?
Not in Guilford County that I know of. I don't believe we have. I will say, the week before I was to be placed on that board, I was provided information on a book,
Mm-hmm.
and it was Life is Funny. It is straight up porn. The whole book is not porn, but there are sections and segments in it that is straight up porn. It actually, if you put the page that was being referenced to in our computer system, it would get flagged.
And was that book banned?
No. No.
Do you think it should have been?
Yes, should be.
Did you make any effort to ban it?
I went to school.
Well, you are now.
Yeah, I can't, until, as a school board, and as far as that is concerned, unless a parent brings it to the school board, we have to say something.
You can't find the book yourself and say, hey, this is questionable.
If a parent brings
It
it
has
to
to
the
be from
school
a
board,
parent.
then it has to come from that direction. And I would say as a school board member doing it, I wouldn't have the votes to do it because there were 6 members on that board, actually, on that day, I'm trying to remember. There may have been 2 that were not
school vouchers.
School vouchers. Do they take money away from the schools? Yes. Does that money follow the student? Yes. We haven't asked any students to leave Guilford County schools, so as long as we create an environment that no parent is forced to use a voucher. If we create a situation in an environment within the public education system, kids will, the parents are going to send their kids to public education. We just have to create the environment that parents do not want to pull their children out of public education. And with that being said, charter school, just because it says charter school or academy or private school, does not mean it's high performing. You can look up a lot of the charter schools, and the performance may not match some of the surrounding public schools. So at that point, you really have to question yourself, why are parents pulling their child out of a high-performing public school to be placed in a charter school?
But do you support the state of North Carolina giving tax money for private schools?
Well, there's two ways to look at it. One is, does it cost the same as sending them to the public school? I think if you crunch the numbers and look at the numbers of it, it's actually a savings to the state of North Carolina. It's not a savings to public education, but it is a savings to what the state of North Carolina pays for education. And the reality is, if we have the same spending structure in public education that some of those schools did, we could do things differently. Charter schools, that $2 billion bond, not a dime of that is going to charter schools.
I want to be clear, do you support the use of vouchers here in North Carolina?
Yes.
Okay. And you do so
I'm
because?
not afraid of it. I'm not afraid of it because I taught school. I had a student that actually drove from Caswell County to Southern Guilford High School to take automotive because of my automotive program. If you create an environment, students will come to you. And career and technical is where we lead in Guilford County. And that is.
I saw on your Facebook page that it appears that you support the campaign of Michelle Marlowe for superintendent of instruction. You've heard the obvious questions about her campaign. She called for the execution of the former president, Mr. Obama. Do you support that?
No. Let's focus on what she is standing for in the schools and what she can do in the schools. I'll be honest, I voted for Catherine Troy. But that wasn't because I disagreed with Michelle Marlowe. I really felt Catherine.
That's not a non-starter for you, the fact that she called for the execution of a former president?
I won't say there's a lot of things on people put on social media that are held against them. That's really, I don't believe she's going to go up there and hang Mr. Obama. I don't believe she's going to do the execution. What people put on social media is one thing, and what their business and what they can perform and do is another. And same thing in my case. They attacked me for social media, and the interesting part is they always accused me of the lead. You can go back and find it, it's all.
What was the big, as someone who's late to that story, what was the big beat? What did you say that angered people on the school board so much?
Yeah, I will let you ask them, because I can't say anything that I put up there should have been a concern. The reality is, one case, where Derek Chauvin was found guilty, he stood up, he placed his hands behind his back, was taken into custody.
I'm sorry, who are you talking about?
Derek Chauvin.
I don't know who Derek Chauvin is.
You're in the news and you don't know who Derek
I don't know
Chauvin
who Derek Chauvin is.
is. He's George Floyd.
Okay.
He,
I mean, it's been a while.
he
Been a while.
did a heinous crime.
The Minneapolis policeman. Okay.
That was a very heinous action in what he did.
Sure.
But the reality is, if George Floyd had been arrested, placed in that car, went willingly, and went downtown, he'd probably be alive today.
So you think by him objecting to the police actions cost him his life?
Yes. The reality is, the argument of like, good prime example, when I was kicked out of the school board meeting, because our leadership kicked me out of the school board meeting, I stood up, held my hands out and said, put me in handcuffs.
They didn't do that, did they?
No, I believe some news media actually reported they did, they never did. They refused, they wouldn't. But the reality is, Derek Chauvin did that was wrong.
What Derek Chauvin did?
Yes, what he did was wrong. He was found guilty of it. And when he was found guilty of it, he could have flailed and fought in that courtroom, or he could stand up, place his hands behind his back, and be arrested.
Gotcha.
I was found.
This has nothing to do with the story, but since you raised that point, everyone has now looked at that Tyreek Hill play. Did you see this? The Miami Dolphin football player who was stopped by police and wrestled to the
I
ground?
just saw the picture of him on the ground.
Yeah, you don't ever seen the video? Okay.
I just saw this, a picture of him on the
I
ground.
won't pursue that, because I was interested in your opinion about what had happened there.
I don't know.
You have to see it, that's
I
fine.
haven't had that. I've been busy today.
I hear you. Let me back up then a little bit. Are we not accountable for what we say as well as what we post on social media?
I will say people do have a tendency to go extreme on posting, and the reality is, some people clean it up. If you go back and look at Dina Hayes' record, there's a lot of racist remarks behind her.
Racist remarks that she had made?
Yes.
Can you name me one? Because I know nothing about
I will let you research that yourself, because, and the reason I
this.
say
Do I
that.
look up Dina Hayes' racist comments?
Yeah, actually, you can probably find some.
Okay.
There are a couple of news articles in the News and Record you can find. There was, she actually came and spoke at my school that I taught at
All right.
the year before.
This is Southern Hill?
Yes, the year before, and if you type in Dina Hayes, Southern
Okay.
Hill for racist comments, you'll find.
Facebook shows your support for Moms for Liberty. Have they endorsed your campaign, do you know?
They're not doing endorsements.
They're not
I will
doing
say, I believe I have support from them,
Okay.
but
What is it about Moms for Liberty that you like?
public involvement. Reality is, I like any public, whether I agree or disagree with groups, public involvement.
You think they're good for education?
Yes,
Why do you think they're good? What are they doing that you think is helping the cause of education?
we're putting a spotlight on education.
And what is that spotlight? Because when you say that's a broad term, when you say they're putting a spotlight on education, what are they unveiling? What are they making public?
You look at COVID. COVID put a spotlight on public education. It's actually where Moms for Liberty came about. The reality is, we kept our schools closed longer than we should have. And a lot of that boiled down to teachers' union. There was a group in segment of teachers that were willing, they were already back at the schools, but teacher unions kept the schools closed.
Do you think they did that for some reason other than their own health?
Yes,
What reason?
well, if you could do your job sitting on the beach somewhere, if you could do your job at your vacation home.
So they're taking a vacation?
Yes, there are enough instances of that, yes. And there was this group of teachers that were ready to come back. They were actually in the schools. And I will say, in Guilford County, we tried to get the teachers back earlier, and they refused. I won't say they, but a group, enough of them refused to come back. Now, if you looked at the charter schools and academies around this area, they were open. I rode by the charter school in High Point. The car line was backed up while our schools were closed. Those kids were attending class in person.
Your Facebook also is critical of the local teachers union. I wonder why. Can you explain your reasons for objecting to the local teachers? I realize it's association, but it's a semi-union, so.
They're not only teachers, they are not a segment representing all educators.
I get that, but what is your objection to the local association of educators?
They do not represent all educators. They have more of a social agenda than a teacher agenda. If you're representing and standing up for the teachers as a teachers union, that's what you should be doing. But they focus on things outside of education.
Can you give me an example?
Well, I will give you an example of the LGBTQ issues within our schools, the CRT, the DEI, all of those focus, they have nothing to do with education. subject I was required to teach. We did not focus on other areas. We did one thing and it was automotive. And when you look at education within classes, if you're a math class, you need to teach math. If you're an English class, teach English. Civics, teach civics.
What was the Teachers Association doing about LGBTQ stuff? Can you explain it? 'Cause I'm not sure.
That is the social agenda. Look, go to their website. I do not profess what they do. I tell people how to do things. Go to their website, research them.
What was it that, in general, you think I'm going to find there that says something about LGBTQ rights or something else?
No, that's just one of the portions that they have. But the reality is, we need to focus on education. We need to focus on teacher pay. We need to focus on conditions within the classroom. And we do put a big focus on teacher pay, but the reality is, we should also focus on the conditions within the schools.
You mean the maintenance issues?
More about just maintenance, conditions, behavior issues. And if you want to get into the LGBTQ, if you're a female teacher and you go into the bathroom, should you have to be concerned about a male student coming in? I've had those emails. That is happening within our schools. This is not schools outside of Guilford County. These are schools in Guilford County where it is happening. So, yes, we need to focus on education.
One thing that just jumped into my mind, you had mentioned the fact that you support the school voucher thing. Now, the Senate just passed a very large school voucher plan. No increase for teacher pay. What is your reaction to that?
Yeah, that's very disappointing. I think teacher pay, and as I've said, we need to focus on all teacher pay, and primarily, I would like to see the focus on the experienced, long-term educator. Because if we are hiring new teachers, we want them to stay in the system. And if they have nowhere to go, they're not going to stay. And what we see is they come in, they work a couple of years, and then they choose to leave.
That has been around for a very long time. I'm wondering why do you think it is done that way?
But a lot of people get in education and really do not know what they're getting into. And it's like most jobs, actually, it's probably a little more overwhelming than most jobs, because it's really a 24/7 job. Most educators do not get off work and go home and stop working. They continue to work. They're working on weekends. Their holiday breaks, they're working. The myth of the teacher that has summers off is wrong. In reality, teachers aren't paid for their summers off.
Are you surprised that your opponent has come back as an independent candidate?
I was a Democrat for that.
He was a Republican too.
And he was independent before that. The reality is, if he had done it a little bit earlier, he'd been a Democrat on the ticket. But he did it a little bit late, and he wasn't able to run as a Democrat, and he got to get the signatures.
Are independents a likely possibility of winning a race in Guilford County?
No. It will be either me or David Coates. And I will tell you, of the two candidates in that race, it needs to be either me or David Coates.
Why do you say that?
One is he is the former school board attorney. I think it might be interesting to have a different perspective on that school board. Similar to the school board being opposed to me being on the school board, and they were very actively opposed. You're somewhat familiar with that, race. Now, you were somewhat familiar with the reasons that they used. Now, you know, every time they refused to seat me on the school board, where did I go back? Went back to the classroom. So they had issues with me being on the school board, but there were not issues with me being in the classroom. And they were very personal. That was very personal attacks on me. Drug me through the mud. And it was not right.
What was it like for you?
Maybe we'll stay in. Maybe we'll stay in. The reality is, as soon as they started dragging me through the mud, I wasn't going to go away. My hope was that they would continue all the way up until the election. The reality is, we never expected them to go as far as what they did, and that was wrong.
retired. Chris is gonna take over. Chris, did we miss something here?
Did you want to do cell phones?
Oh, thank you. That's why Chris is here. Do you think that the schools should ban students from having cell phones while they're in class?
Okay, can I tell you my personal policy
Sure.
as an educator?
Sure.
I banned cell phones in my classroom.
You did,
I did not allow them in my classroom.
and now you carry three of them.
And if a student used one, he had the option of either giving it to me or an administrator coming and picking it up.
How long ago did you implement that plan?
That was always my plan.
Through your 26 years, well, we have cell phones that long.
Now, in my case, at the end of the class period, the student gave me the cell phone, at the end of the class period, guess what? I gave him the cell phone back.
Sure.
If the administrator came and got them, then
How did you get away with taking kids' cell phones? Didn't anyone raise a ruckus?
students didn't like it. But overall, most of the students that the issue was with knew that if they laid it on my desk, end of the class period, they were going to get it back. The occasional student would love that trend, and at that point, the administrator, I just get on the cell phone, I'm going to get on my phone, call the administrator, say, students refusing to give me the phone, and most of the time, they would come down and get the student in the phone. So the reality is, we have a policy within Guilford County, and if you will look at the policy, it actually is, cell phones are banned.
I didn't know cell phones were banned.
If you read the policy,
That's not enforced, is it?
no.
Okay.
So the reality is.
But you
if we-
support-
If we come up with that, we need to support it.
But you do support the idea of taking cell phones out of the schools?
Yes, and actually, now, I will rephrase the way you're saying that.
Okay.
Cell phones won't be taken out of the school. What we're looking at is a system where when a student comes in, cell phones put away.
So they can't have a cell phone?
Do not have access.
Okay.
Um,
That makes sense.
And at that point, it's still going to be the same as my situation. The administrator's going to have to back the teachers up. Because if the administrators do not back the teachers
You
up,
don't believe that administration is supporting teachers enough?
in some aspects, we need more support.
Can you give me an aspect?
Okay? When I call an administrator to come get a cell phone and they don't show up,
That's not,
that's,
you know your light's out, right?
Yeah, I had to change the battery really quick.
Okay, is the light coming back on?
It will come back on in just a second.
Okay.
Give me just a second.
I wanna make sure you're
Yeah.
well lit, not
I'm
on
sorry.
shady.
My battery died, so I had to change it. I apologize.
Is there anything that we have missed that you wanted to get out?
Hold on just a second before you answer that question.
Well, this way you can think about it for a second. This way you have some time to give it some consideration.
It should be up in just a second.
I'm just asking, you know, sometimes I forgot to ask about cell phones and Chris knew it. Is there something on your mind perhaps you expected or just wanted to get out to voters? We don't do, I think this is my very first school board race that I've ever covered. Now, obviously, the school boards have become much more political.
yes.
And your race happened to be at the top of the heap. So that's why I expect this race to do something on it. Is there something we missed that you think should be included?
Well, I always state the fact, I worked for 26 years in Guilford County Schools. And in that 26 years, I saw how policies affected the students, affected the system, changes within the system. I know what worked, I know what didn't work. I found that through the system, I know a lot of people. I've been very surprised at Southern Guilford, how many people have gone through Southern Guilford who are now administrators, principals, assistant principals, guidance counselors, students that I've worked with and taught are now working for Guilford County Schools. When Jesse Palin stated that I had been there for a quarter of a century, I felt old.
You what?
I felt old.
Oh.
When you put it in terms of working for the school system for a quarter of a century, that put on. I taught the students, and then I taught the children of the students.
You know, you mentioned that you were an automotive guy, and I thought about that. Is your class relevant today? Because I can't work on a car anymore, it's all computers. Back in the day, I had a carburetor or something I could fix. Can someone really work on a car today?
Yes, and I'll give you a successful automotive student. Successful automotive student will graduate, go to a two-year college or tech school,
Okay.
young 20s, married, own a couple of cars, buying a house, and raising a family. And their friends are either dropped out of college,
So you open the door for them on a career?
open the door for a career.
Because what I learned in your class is not going to allow me to fix a car
No,
anymore.
no. What you learn in high school automotive will not set you up for a career unless you were working in the industry. And that is something we need to focus on within Guilford County Schools is the apprenticeship programs. We have the GAP program, which
Yeah.
is the premier. We have SOAR, and we have NCFA. GAP program is a premier because the students can actually work while they're senior in high school and be in it.
Are you sure of that? Because I thought I did a story on that recently. What was that company? I did, not terribly long ago, I did a story where these students, I want to say Guilford County, but I want to say the company was in Alamance.
Our machine specialists.
Yeah, what was that company?
Machine specialists.
Was that what it was? But these guys were working there, and I interviewed a couple of them, and they were students from, various, whatever. So when you say gap, they can't work, weren't they
Well, they
working?
can work.
Oh,
I
they
said
can.
GAP, they can. NC Fame and SOAR.
Oh, I thought you said gap, they
Yeah,
couldn't
no,
work.
GAP is,
Okay.
no,
I
GAP is the
misunderstood.
premier program.
I got you.
Because they actually can work while they're a senior. I
Wow.
would love to see that expanded into more work with
Yeah,
this.
that looked like a good program, I saw.
Oh, it's an awesome program. It is just now, it's been in place for 10 years. It's just now starting to take off. Well, once it started to take off to a certain degree, and I had students that have done it. I actually have students that went into that program, and it is a good program. With them going into the GAP program, they can work as a senior, they're actually making school money, they're going to school,
Good deal.
they're getting experience, they're leading themselves to a career.
How do you like the chances of this race?
How about chances? It's gonna be either me or David Coates.
I figured that part out, you mentioned that. How do you like your chances of winning?
Well, my two opponents are Democrats, so I'm hoping they will split the vote, and then will be Republicans voting for me. And actually, I was independents, because the reality is even Democrats should vote for me. I worked in the school system. I support public education. I mean, you cannot be a public educator and not support public education. We just need to create the environment that students will attend in.
We want to thank you for your time, we want to wish you the best of luck in the campaign trail. I think a forum on the 17th of this month, You doing that? I think I'm doing that as well. So I will see you at that event.
All right. Well, look
Good to
forward
see
to
you.
it.
Thank you for your time.